Boy, what a weekend. Whew. Today's Monday. Saturday we made history. Yeah, Saturday was the protests globally. And I attended the one in St. Paul. And I did the video. My last video was on that. And the numbers so far look like somewhere between 4.5 and 5 million people who believe in democracy stood up and protested. And of all that, there was one incident, and that, I believe, was in New York, where some Trump dummy idiot with an assault weapon thought he should threaten the protesters. And I guess he kind of took his car and tried to kind of bump into a bunch of them. Then he jumped out and he had this gun and he's waving it around and making a complete Trump dummy out of himself. And of course the police, told him, well, he didn't shoot anybody, so I guess we'll just kind of tell him, get in your car and go home. Seems kind of weird that you can run around with assault rifles in the middle of a crowd like that and nobody says nothing. Yeah, it's crazy. I guess I can understand why kids run around in school and shoot fellow students or something, Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, then Sunday, took care of a bunch of stuff. Got the motorcycle out, cleaned it up real nice, and got it ready for a ride. And then it got chilly, so I'm not riding right now, but soon. And I got a bunch of other stuff done, so that was nice. And today I got to thinking, we don't do history anymore. I don't think that's allowed in school now, because you can't teach the kids about history, because then they'd know that we have a past, and we can't have that. And, then there's things like DEI, which is, learning about how black people were enslaved and Indians were murdered, and we took their land, and then we took the Mexicans who occupied about a third of the United States. It used to be Mexico, and we took them and we killed a bunch of them and sent them back to Mexico. And that's history that we don't teach. We can't teach it because it's against the law to teach things now, I guess. And it's kind of what would you call it, a forgotten art, is knowing history and doing math and all that kind of stuff, unless it's good history. Good history is like, where, Confederate generals did stuff and they had slaves, and those are all good history things, so I guess that's the deal. But, we don't remember the history of just the first Trump failure. Remember the first Trump failure when a little over 1 million people died because of the incompetence of our president at the time? The Trump-demic killed 1.2 million Americans. And a lot of that could have been prevented. About half of it could have been prevented if they pushed the vaccines, the life-saving vaccines, like they should have. And, it didn't happen. And then the economy went down the toilet, inflation went nuts, and then he had the 2020 OPEC deal, which really screwed up the oil prices. And then along comes Biden, and he puts in the infrastructure bill. I'm talking history now. You're not going to hear this in schools. Well, he put the infrastructure bill together, and they set up this thing called USAID, because the farmers were overproducing crops and cattle and everything else, and they needed someplace to market it. And USAID was a good part of that, and they signed contracts with the government. And what happened? Trump came along and he got rid of it all. And now the farmers are going broke, and they're going to lose their farms and all this kind of stuff. What I don't understand is Biden, real president from Biden, he pushed this infrastructure plan together, and the inflation was going down. The people were massive re-employment and new employment, and the farmers are getting this package. And what did they do? They voted for Trump. Now, why would you vote for Trump? You know, you got a guy that's handing you food for the table, and what do? You vote for the dog that's just going to eat your food, and you're going to end up with nothing. And that's exactly what happened. You know, there's an old saying, you just can't fix stupid, and that's kind of what we're facing here. I just don't get it. But you know, then another part of history, you look back, and how many people remember just back in 2020 when everything was crashing? All the stores are closed, playgrounds are closed, schools are closed, nobody's working, nothing's going on. How many people remember that? How many people think it was fake? Just like the Holocaust, that's fake. And everything in history that we don't like, it's just fake. And if somebody gives you some news that you don't like, that's fake. The real fake stuff is Trump and everything about Trump. I mean, look at Malaria Trump. She's 99% recycled plastic. And, his favorite squeeze daughter and her husband, they're all the same. They're like the Kardashians, And Trump himself, I mean, look at his complexion. I mean, he's 99%, what is it, Valerie Fair or whatever, whoever the makeup artist is that paints him every day. I mean, he just kind of trolls the stuff on now. I'm waiting for him to start doing the eyelashes and the, maybe have the beauty mark or something on his cheek there. I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. And during the campaign, it was crooked Hillary, crooked this and crooked that. Here's this guy that had this scam college where, he got sued and he had to pay $25 million in restitution, and he got banned from doing business in New York, and he's a convicted felon and a serial rapist and a pedophile and all this stuff. And what's he doing? Oh, that crooked Hillary, she does email. It's against the law to do an email. You can't send email if you're a woman. What a crazy country we live in, isn't it? Where a convicted felon can call somebody else who does email a crook, and you fall for it. Boy, there's a lot of bright bulbs on the old Christmas tree. So anyway, the stock market's in the toilet, and on the good side, Tesla's going bankrupt, so that's nice. And let's hope some more rockets explode. That'll be kind of the icing on the cake. And then we'll maybe never hear of Elon Pusshead again, so that'll be fine. Yeah, what a deal. So I do have a link, and you'll see it somewhere above me, right or left. I'm not too sure because I'm right-handed, and I think my computer's left-handed. But there'll be a link to a video I did in 2020, and it's an actual video, not fake news. It's not a Fox deal. This is an actual video on what our country looked like during the Trump-demic. And I think you should look at that and think about what we went through. And if he keeps going the way he's going right now, the same thing's going to happen. Except it won't be a virus. It'll be the oligarchs. It'll be wannabe rich Trump and his actual rich friends. So check out the video. It's worth watching. It's not real long, but it's quite factual. So check her out, would you please? All right, well, you guys hang in there. Hopefully we'll survive this chaotic bunch of horse manure, which I had to say horse manure because I'm driving right by a horsey place. Moose Acres. That's kind of a goofy name for a horse place. But anyway, like I say, hang in there. We're all in this together, folks.